Okay, we are back in session. Commissioner McBride, before I ask Commissioner Tittle to make her motion, is there anything you'd like to add or any comments you'd like to make?
I guess I want to. I'm trying to understand the because there are a lot of different types of complaints that come before state agencies. You know, thousands of complaints, right? And so this does feel to me like it has much broader policy implications for us, and so it makes me a little like I'm not quite sure how to kind of deal with like the unique circumstance. Do we know what who has seen this the complaint? Like, what are we? I'm trying to right size this. What is who has seen the actual documented complaint and can say what it's about? Have we actually seen paperwork on the complaint other than like something that's been in a press report? Has someone actually looked at the paper?
Mr. Potvin?
I have not seen the actual complaint.
And Mr. Executive Director, if you're still there, are you aware of anybody else on the staff that would have seen this complaint? Sorry.
It might be something, obviously it would be within our enforcement council and our enforcement team, but I'm not prepared to answer that at this point in time.
Okay, thank you.
So if here, like the quandary, right, that we find ourselves in, I think that this is like sort of setting aside the merits of any complaint, because I think that I don't want to speak to the merits of this. I mean, I think that I'll go on the record as saying that I support employees' rights to unionize. So that's just like a broad category right there. So without merits of the complaint, I'm kind of trying to think about right now, you know, if we look at what we require under suitability, there isn't something, as you know, I think Commissioner Tittle was saying this, right? There's kind of not something that's like square on. There are ways to analogize, but with suitability, particularly with suitability, analogizing can get very dangerous when we talk about people's, you know, rights to pursue something. And I mean, we know this. We've had many conversations about that. So I get a little bit nervous about deciding to take an action that feels like a suitability, or it kind of has like the whiff of suitability, and embed that as a condition, because I feel like then, you know, I feel like we can start to kind of like add a lot of conditions in a lot of different ways that aren't something that it's not reflected in what we put on paper, you know, and that we start to kind of broaden, right? Like, and I that's going to happen as part of our considerations, but I guess I just would like to know a little bit. I'd like to know a little bit more about specifically what we're talking about here. And it's kind of hard for me to. It's hard for me to say that something should be. I don't know. I mean, I'm just having a tough time sort of analogizing this, I guess. Can someone help me understand it better? I'm sorry.
Well, I think what I'd like to suggest, if it's okay with Commissioner McBride and the other commissioners as well, let's fall back on what I was proposing, which is that, you know, I do think there are some policy considerations here. I agree, as I said earlier, with Commissioner Flanagan, and I believe that we should address those policy considerations, but not at this moment in time. And so my commitment to the group is that or the commission is that I will ensure that it is on a future agenda. I do think we need to, if Commissioner Tittle chooses or asks to make a motion to add an additional condition to this license, I think we should vote on that very narrow matter. And then, as I said, postpone, you know, the policy conversation to another time. But that's I think the best way through this, given that I think there are some really tricky issues here, Commissioner McBride. I certainly agree with your assessment. That being said, Commissioner Title, do you still wish to make a motion to add an additional condition to this license?
I do. And if I may, I'd like to just respond to what Commissioner McBride said.
Sure, go ahead.
So I completely agree. And that actually is my concern, that I don't know what's in this complaint. And when I saw this on the agenda, I asked for it. We didn't have it. And that's really my issue is I'm not suggesting that we should be deciding the merits of this matter, but there is an open complaint. We know there's an open complaint, and whether an entity in front of us is complying with federal and state law, I think goes to the very heart of what we're trying to decide. So I agree that we shouldn't be making policy, and that we should be narrow in what we are deciding. So this condition is purely about disclosure, to make sure that we're aware of how this complaint is decided. I did get some help from legal over the break, so I'd like to reread my motion, which is the same concept, but written better.
Commissioner Title, just please, thank you for that, and I'm going to ask you to do that in a second. As long as Commissioners McBride and Flanagan are comfortable with, us making that motion before further conversation. So Commissioner McBride, are you comfortable that we've discussed this enough and that we'll consider the motion that Commissioner Title is about to make?
Well, I guess I'd like to, can we sort of put a pin in that? Can I hear the motion? And then if I have questions on
Sure.
the link, just because I want to, I guess I want to hear.
Before I ask for a vote, we'll get the motion, get it seconded. Before I ask for a vote, I'll allow for further conversation if there is any. Commissioner Flanagan, are you okay with that plan?
I believe there's already a motion on the table, which means that Commissioner Title needs to amend her motion.
Okay, so that's fine. Would you do so, Commissioner Title, please?
Yes, and thank you, Commissioner Flanagan. So I want to amend my motion. It's also in the chat if anyone wants to read along. Upon the Department of Labor Relations rendering a decision on the complaint at issue, the entity must disclose that decision to the Commission. If the entity is found in violation of any law, rule, or regulation, or are asked to comply with the terms of the decision, that they demonstrate to the Commission a plan to comply with any conditions, sanctions, or terms imposed by the decision.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Title. I think let me ask for a second, and then before I ask for a vote, I will allow people to make comments. Could I have a second on that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show the motion was made by Commissioner Title, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. Again, before I ask for a vote, are there any comments or questions or question clarity? Commissioner McBride?
Just some clarity on what is the complaint at issue. And I just say that because it, what can we have a little more like of what the some specificity of who who has the complaint, or how do we know about this complaint? Like, I mean, just a little bit more information, because again, it's, I don't know, but, at any given time before DLR or others, there are, multiple complaints. So when we talk about the complaint at issue, what's the complaint at issue? I still don't know what the complaint at issue is.
Commissioner Title, do you have any comments on that?
You are correct, Commissioner McBride. That should absolutely be specified. I have the news report open here. So would this be sufficient specificity? The complaint filed by the local 1445 branch of the UFCW regarding attempts to block unionization efforts.
Okay.
Is that sufficient, Commissioner McBride, for your purposes?
Yes, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask what the news report
Yes, go
came
ahead,
from?
Commissioner Flanagan, go ahead, please.
Where did the news report come from?
Worcester Magazine.
can we do this one more time then? Please ask Commissioner Title to amend her motion, second it, and then again, before I ask for a vote, I'll allow the opportunity for any additional comments or questions. Commissioner Title, are you willing to amend your motion?
Yes, but can I have a second to amend it,
Sure.
please?
Sure.
Okay.
Go ahead, please. Then please amend the motion if you so wish.
Okay. Upon the Department of Labor Relations rendering a decision on a complaint filed by the local 1445 branch of the UFCW regarding attempts to block unionization efforts, the entity must disclose that decision to the commission. If the entity is found in violation of any law, rule, or regulation, or is asked to comply with the terms of the decision, that they demonstrate to the commission a plan to comply with any conditions, sanctions, or terms imposed by the decision.
Okay, thank you. So you are making such an amended motion, correct?
Correct.
Can I have a second of that motion? And again, I will allow for further conversation before a vote. Can I get a second for that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Title made the amended motion, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Again, before I ask for a vote, are there any additional comments or questions? Then again, before I ask for a vote, let me just remind everybody, the vote here is to add an additional condition to the license currently being considered, which already has another condition from Commissioner Title. So the outcome of this vote will determine whether we add an additional condition before we take a vote on the actual application.
Mr.
Yes.
Chairman, can I ask one further question?
Sure, please, Commissioner Flanagan.
What is the date of this publication?
Commissioner Title.
March 3rd, 2020.
Was this brought up to licensing before now?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay. So on the table is a motion made by Commissioner Title, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Can I ask for a vote, please? Commissioner Flanagan, your vote?
No.
Commissioner McBride?
Yes.
Commissioner Title?
Yes.
Commissioner Hoffman, yes. Let the record show that the commission approved the addition of an additional condition to this license application, subject to a vote on the actual application itself, by a vote of 3 in favor, Commissioners Title, McBride, and Hoffman, with Commissioner Flanagan voting no. So I think we now move back to the original application, which, just to remind everybody, is Mayflower Medicinals Incorporated, MRN 282155, which the vote is subject to the original condition requested by Commissioner Title, as well as the condition just voted on by the commission. Can I have such a motion, please, Commissioner Title?
So moved.
Can I have a second, Commissioner McBride?
Second.
Let the record show that Commissioner Title made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Title.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission approved the staff recommendation unanimously to issue a provisional license to Mayflower Medicinals Incorporated, MRN 282155, subject to the 2 additional conditions requested, one by by Commissioner Title, and then the second voted on by the entire commission. Thank you very much. Back to you, Mr. Potvin. We have 2 applications from Metro Harvest Incorporated for retail. They're not co-located, is that correct?
That is correct.
So we'll treat them separately. So let's start with Metro Harvest Incorporated, MRN 282659 retail. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Metro Harvest Incorporated. The proposed location is 606 Tocklin Hill Road, located in New Bedford. This is a retail application. There's additional information contained within the executive summary for your review and consideration. With that said, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I have requests for additional conditions from both Commissioners Flanagan and Commissioner Title. Commissioner Flanagan's requested condition is resubmit the positive impact plan to include more than just a hiring plan. And from Commissioner Title, revised diversity plan goal to hire 20% women to be objectively reasonable. Did I get those right, Commissioners Title and Flanagan, or any additional comments?
I'm okay.
Okay.
Me too.
Any other questions or comments for on this application? Okay, then I'd like to ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Metro Harvest Incorporated MRN 282659, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Title and Flanagan. Can I have such a motion, please, Commissioner McBride?
So moved.
Can I have a second, Commissioner Title?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Title.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Metro Harvest Incorporated, MRN 282659, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Title and Flanagan. Next up, Mr. Potvin, is Metro Harvest Incorporated, MRN 282743, retail.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here again is Metro Harvest Incorporated. The proposed location is 1903 Fall River Avenue, located in Seekonk, Massachusetts. They are again seeking a second retail license. There's additional information contained within the executive summary for your review and consideration. With that said, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. And am I correct, Commissioners Title and Flanagan, the conditions that you requested on the previous license are the same conditions you request on this license as well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so are there any other comments or questions? Then let me please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Metro Harvest Incorporated, MRN 282743, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Title and Flanagan. Can I have such a motion, Commissioner Title?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second, please, Commissioner McBride?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Title made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Title.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Metro Harvest Incorporated, MRN 282743, subject to the additional conditions requested by Commissioners Title and Flanagan. Thank you very much. Next up is PHA Industries Incorporated, MPN 281770, which is Tier 1 indoor cultivation. Mr. Potvin.
Just want to make a brief correction, Mr. Chairman. I just want to make sure it's PHA Industries Incorporated, MPN 281383, a product manufacturing application.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I skipped one by accident. I apologize. Go ahead. So thank you. Just make the record clear. PHA Industries Incorporated, MPN 281383, product manufacturer.
Thank you. Thank you.
Go ahead. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it.
Thank you. The applicant here is PHA Industries Incorporated. The proposed location is 153 Quabbin Boulevard, located in Orange. They are seeking a product manufacturing license. There's additional information contained within the executive summary for the commission's review and consideration. With that said, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. Commissioner Flanagan has requested an additional condition on this application, which I will read. Clarify how many people will benefit from the program stated. In the positive impact plan, there are 3 goals, and each goal states it will benefit 4 people. Will 12 people in total benefit, or is each program benefiting the same 4 people? Any additional comments or questions, Commissioner Flanagan? Did I read that correctly?
That's it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from other commissioners? Okay, then could I please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to PHA Industries Incorporated, MPN 281383, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Flanagan. Could I have such a motion, Commissioner Flanagan?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Tittle, would you second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Tittle. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Tittle.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to PHA Industries Incorporated, MPN 281383, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Flanagan. Next are two for Pure Botanicals LLC. Are they co-located or separate, Mr. Pochman?
They are co-located.
Okay, so let's go through them together and we'll vote separately. The first application is Pure Botanicals LLC, MCN 281770, which is Tier 1 indoor cultivation. And then the second is Pure Botanicals LLC, MRN 281951, retail. Mr. Pochman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Pure Botanicals LLC. The proposed location is 239 West Street, located in Pittsfield. The two licenses being sought here are a Tier 1 indoor cultivation license and a retail license. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. With that said, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of two provisional licenses subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. On the first Pure Botanicals application, MCN 281770, Commissioner Tittle has requested the following conditions. Revised diversity plan goal to employ 20% or more women and/or veterans in retail and management positions to be clearer and objectively reasonable, and to address the following questions. First, what is meant by retail positions for a cultivation license? Second, what is the basis for the indication that annual advertisements in the Athol Daily News and the Greenfield Recorder are a way to target women and veterans? Did I get that correct, Commissioner Tittle?
Yes.
And any additional comments?
No, thank you.
Any other comments or questions from other commissioners?
No, thanks.
Okay, thank you. Then could I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Pure Botanicals LLC, MCN 281770, Tier 1 indoor cultivation, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Tittle. Could I have such a motion, please, Commissioner McBride? Thank you. Commissioner Flanagan, would you second the motion?
Second.
Thank you very much. Let the record show that Commissioner McBride made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. Your vote, Commissioner Flanagan?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Tittle?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman? Aye. Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Pure Botanicals LLC, MCN 281770, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Tittle. Let me, before I ask for a vote, on the second Pure Botanicals license, Commissioner Tittle has asked for a separate condition from the previous license, and I'll read it. Revised diversity plan goal to employ 20% or more women and/or veterans in retail and management positions to be clearer and objectively reasonable, and to address the following question. What is the basis for the indication that the annual advertisements in the Athol Daily News and the Greenfield Recorder are a way to target women and veterans? Did I get that correct, Commissioner Tittle?
Yes.
Do you have any additional comments?
No, thank you.
Commissioners, other commissioners, any questions or comments on this?
No.
Okay, thank you. Then let me please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Pure Botanicals LLC, MRN 281951, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Tittle. Can I have such a motion, please, Commissioner Tittle?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner McBride, would you second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Tittle made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Your vote, Commissioner Flanagan?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Tittle?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman? Aye. Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Pure Botanicals LLC, MRN 281951, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Tittle. Next up, we have two applications from QPS Massachusetts Holdings Incorporated. First is MCN 281517, Tier 4 Indoor Cultivation. The second is MPN 281696, Product Manufacturer, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is QPS Massachusetts Holdings Incorporated. The proposed location is 105 Constitution Boulevard, located in Franklin, Mass. The two licenses being sought are a Tier 4 indoor cultivation license and a product manufacturing license. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend issuance of two provisional licenses subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I have a request for additional condition on both licenses from Commissioner Title, which I will read. Revised diversity plan goal for 20% of its workforce to be comprised of women and minorities to be objectively reasonable. Did I get that right, Commissioner Title? Any other comments?
You got it right, and no further comments.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from Commissioners Flanagan or McBride?
No.
Okay.
No.
Thank you. Then let me ask for a motion, please, to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to QPS Massachusetts Holdings Incorporated, MCN 281517, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Could I have such a motion, Commissioner Flanagan?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Title, would you second that motion?
Second.
Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. Your vote, Commissioner Flanagan?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Title?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to QPS Massachusetts Holdings Incorporated, MCN 281517, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Let me next please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to QPS Massachusetts Holdings Incorporated, MPN 281696, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Could I have such a motion, please, Commissioner McBride?
So moved.
Commissioner Flanagan, would you second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Title.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to QPS Massachusetts Holdings Incorporated, MPN 281696. Thank you. Next and last slide, please. Well, not the recess slide, although recess does sound very tempting. Thank you very much, Erica. I believe that precedent has been established here, Mr. Potvin, with this first time we've gone to triple letters.
That is correct, sir.
That is impressive. Once again, the amount of work performed by staff in preparation for this meeting is truly impressive and appreciated.
Thank you.
So next up is Resonate Incorporated, MRN 282399 Retail. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant here is Resonate Incorporated. The proposed location is 135 Westboro Road, located in Grafton. They are seeking a retail license. There's additional information contained within the executive summary for the commission's review and consideration. With that said, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I'm not aware of any requests for additional conditions on this license. Are there questions or comments from the commissioners?
No.
No.
Fine, then could I please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Resonate Incorporated, MRN 282399. Could I have such a motion, please, Commissioner Title?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner McBride, would you second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner Title made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Title.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to approve a provisional license for Resonate Incorporated, MRN 282399. Thank you very much. Next up is Stafford Green Incorporated, MCN 281964, Tier 5 Outdoor Cultivation, which has been expedited given the license type. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Stafford Green Incorporated. The proposed location is 80 Stafford Hill Road, located in Cheshire, Mass. The license being sought here is a Tier 5 outdoor cultivation license. Again, they did receive expedited review due to the nature of their outdoor cultivation application. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review. Therefore, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I'm aware of a condition requested by Commissioner Title, which I will read. Revised diversity plan goal to employ 20% or more women and/or veterans in retail and management positions to be clearer and objectively reasonable, and to address the following questions. First, what is meant by retail positions for a cultivation license? And two, what is the basis for the indication that annual advertisements in the Berkshire Eagle and Hampshire Gazette are a way to target women and veterans? Did I get that correct, Commissioner Title?
Yes.
Any additional comments?
No, thank you.
Any questions from other commissioners or concerns? Okay, then could I please ask for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Stafford Green Incorporated, MCN 281-964, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Commissioner Flanagan, would you make such a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Title, would you second that motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Title?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Stafford Green Incorporated, MCN 281-964, subject to the additional condition requested by Commissioner Title. Next up is the Haven Center Incorporated, MRN 282581, retail. This was an MTC priority application. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is the Haven Center Incorporated. The proposed location is 1435 Pleasant Street, located in Fall River, Mass. The applicant is seeking a retail license. As you stated, it was an MTC priority applicant. There's additional information contained within the executive summary for the commission's review and consideration. With that said, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I'm not aware of any conditions, additional conditions being requested by commissioners, but do you have any comments or questions? Okay. Then could I please have a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to the Haven Center Incorporated, MRN 282581. Would you make such a motion, Commissioner Title, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner McBride, would you second the motion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Title made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Title?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to the Haven Center Incorporated, MRN 282581. Thank you. Next up is Wellman Farm Incorporated, MCN 282513, which is Tier 10 outdoor cultivation. This was expedited both because it is a disadvantaged business enterprise as well as due to the type of license. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The applicant here is Wellman Farm Incorporated. The proposed location is 108 West Layden Road, located in Coleraine, Mass. They are seeking a Tier 10 outdoor cultivation license. Again, as you stated, they did receive expedited review because of the outdoor cultivation application that they completed, as well as being certified as a disadvantaged business enterprise. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for your review and consideration. Therefore, commission staff do recommend the issuance of a provisional license subject to the conditions before you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I am not aware of any additional requests for additional conditions on this license. Any questions or comments from commissioners on this before I ask for a motion? Okay, thank you. Then could I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Wellman Farm Incorporated, MCN 282513. Commissioner Flanagan, would you make such a motion, please?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Title, would you second that motion?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Flanagan made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Title. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Title?
Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Wellman Farm Incorporated, MCN 282513. Thank you. The two Witch City Garden applications are separate locations, correct?
They are the same location.
Are they on the same location? Fine. Then let's just do them once and we'll have separate votes. So two applications from Witch City Gardens LLC. First is MCN 281615, which is Tier 3 indoor cultivation. The second is MRN 281663, which is retail. Mr. Potvin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you stated, the applicant here is Witch City Gardens LLC. The proposed location is 36-38 Jefferson Avenue, located in Salem, Massachusetts. They are seeking a Tier 3 indoor cultivation license as well as a retail license. Additional information is contained within the executive summary for the Commission's review and consideration. With that said, Commission staff do recommend the issuance of two provisional licenses subject to the following conditions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Potvin. I'm not aware of requests for additional conditions on either of these licenses, but are there questions or comments from commissioners? Okay, then could I ask please for a motion to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Witch City Gardens LLC, MCN 281615. Could I ask for such a motion, Commissioner McBride?
So moved.
Thank you. Commissioner Flanagan, would you second the motion, please?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show that Commissioner McBride made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Teitel?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license from Witch City for Witch City Gardens LLC, MCN 281615. Thank you. Let me next ask for a motion, please, to approve the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Witch City Gardens LLC, MRN 281663. Could I have such a motion, please, Commissioner Teitel?
So moved.
Thank you. Could I have a second, Commissioner McBride?
Second.
Thank you. Let the record show Commissioner Teitel made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Teitel?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the commission unanimously approved the staff recommendation to issue a provisional license to Witch City Gardens LLC, MRN 281663. Thank you. Mr. Potvin, have we missed anything?
No, sir. I think that's.
Sure. We didn't have very many applications today. I'm wondering why we couldn't do some more.
I will definitely try for a larger volume next month.
I do have confidence in your ability to back that statement up, but thank you very much. Again, I know I've said this a few times, but it certainly bears repeating. All of us on the commission truly appreciate how much work and diligence and care go into each of these, both in terms of the actual evaluation of the application as well as the preparation of materials for this meeting. And we are truly grateful to you and the entire licensing staff for all the work you've done here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say that it's a team effort, it's a department effort, and it's not just the licensing staff, but all of our investigators, all our compliance officers, all of our associate enforcement counsels, our enforcement counsel, and ultimately our chief. And we all worked very diligently to make productive meetings for you.
That is very gracious of you to include all the others, and I certainly recognize their involvement as well. So thank you very much, Mr. Potvin.
Thank you.
I think you can, go back to your day job.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks very much. So let's just do a kind of a check in terms of where we are in the agenda. Can we get the next slide, Erica, please? No, not the recess slide yet. Yeah, here we go. So we have two commission discussion and potential votes, one on updated equity guidance and two on, as the executive director was giving us an update earlier today on his executive, the order that went out to allow for curbside delivery for adult use. There was a requirement that all passengers in the vehicle that came for curbside had to be 21 of age, and that's something that Commissioner Title has requested that we have a discussion on. So those are the two agenda items for commission discussion and vote. We also have an update on the public awareness campaign and a report on that from our research team. Not clear how long we've got, but I'm going to just ask each commissioner, would you like to take a lunch break or you want to plow through? I'm hopeful that we probably have no more than an hour left, but I can't guarantee that, obviously. But I'm willing to do whatever the kind of will of the commission is here. So, Commissioner McBride, you want to take a lunch break? Commissioner Title, Commissioner Flanagan, starting with Commissioner McBride.
I'd like some kind of break. It doesn't necessarily need to be a lunch break, but I could use, some time.
Okay. Commissioner Title, you okay with that?
Yeah.
Commissioner Flanagan, you okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
How much time would you, I'm going to put you on the spot, Commissioner McBride. How much time would you like?
I mean, I can eat pretty fast.
So let's see, it's quarter to one, a quarter past one. Do you want to take a half hour? Is that enough, or you want to take?
Yeah, let's do 30 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, so then could I have a motion, please, to go into recess until 1:45? Someone make that motion, please.
So moved.
Second.
That was Commissioner Flanagan that seconded.
Yes.
Okay, let the record show Commissioner McBride made the motion, seconded by Commissioner Flanagan. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote.
Aye.
Commissioner McBride.
Aye.
Commissioner Title.
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. So let the record show that we unanimously voted to recess until 1:45 p.m. Talk to you all then.
Thanks.
Enjoy your lunch. Okay, it's 1:45. Commissioner McBride, are you back? Commissioner Title?
Sorry, I'm back. I had a mouthful so much.
No problem. Looks like everybody's back. Commissioner Flanagan, Commissioner McBride?
Yes.
Great, thank you very much. So Erica, can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you very much. As I mentioned, there's two topics for discussion and possible vote. The first is updated equity guidance. Commissioner Title, would you lead us through this conversation, please, if that's okay?
Sure, thank you. So the purpose of this new equity guidance, which doesn't create any new policy, it's just a updated big picture view of all of the different programs we have, primarily the social equity program and the related resources on eligibility and how to apply, with links to extensive resources made by Shakia Scott and Alyssa Flores on our staff. But then it also goes through the economic empowerment program and the benefits for minority, women, and veteran-owned businesses, because people often get confused about which program is which and who is eligible for what. So to prevent that conflation, this guidance has a very brief overview on the legal basis for each one, and then how to apply for each one, how to apply for certified minority, women, veteran-owned status through the Supplier Diversity Office, how to maintain eligibility for all of those, especially for if you were previously certified as economic empowerment. Then it goes through the different benefits of each program. And then finally, it has the links to all the extensive data that our research department, the reports the research department has published, and then the data that is published in all of the meeting presentations. So I hope people find it helpful, and I welcome any questions or comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Tyler. This was circulated to the full commission a while back, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to read through it. Are there questions or comments from Commissioners McBride or Flanagan?
I don't.
No? I thought this was a really helpful and well-written document, and the changes I thought were extremely valuable. So thank you for the leadership on this, Commissioner Title.
Thank you.
I think we should ask for a motion to approve the guidance document. Would you care to make it, Commissioner Title?
So moved.
Could I have a second, please?
Second.
Second.
Let the record show that Commissioner Title made the motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Commissioner Flanagan, your vote?
Aye.
Commissioner McBride?
Aye.
Commissioner Title?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye. Let the record show that the Commission unanimously approved the updated equity guidance. Again, my thanks to you and the others that you mentioned in doing this valuable document. I'm sorry, I'm going to put you on the spot again, Commissioner Title, but the next topic, which is, as I said, comments or concerns about the minimum age requirement for all persons and vehicles during curbside delivery. You wish to raise some questions or comments, make some comments on that issue. We'll see whether we end up asking for a motion or a vote, but let's start the conversation if you wouldn't mind, Commissioner Title.
Thank you, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, for including this on the agenda. I think this is a situation where there is no perfect answer, but I wanted to raise it for discussion because I think just openly having the discussion is a good step. So this concerns the part of our administrative order allowing curbside operations that requires everyone in a vehicle to be 21 or older. The executive director mentioned this earlier. I wanted to raise this for discussion for the sake of parents, because I think they at least deserve for us to discuss this and make an intentional decision that explicitly takes them into account. Because, so among our general principles that we have abided by from the beginning, one of them is we keep people under 21 very far away from everything regulated marijuana related. And I think that makes sense. And I think other than our first discussions, creating definitions, we have not had much conversation or discussion on that topic because it wasn't really necessary because you can leave your children at home or at school or with childcare. But in this case, I think we need to think about, as we have been, how our decisions are affecting people now that their lives have changed dramatically. Part of that is that parents don't have access to childcare. And if you consider all of the protections that we have put in place, you can't consume cannabis in a car. It has to be locked up. People under 21 can't use it. We've had a very effective public awareness campaign that we're about to discuss. These are extremely regulated stores, that it's worth considering an exception during the state of emergency and while just until delivery is available for parents or guardians who may have children under 12, or whatever the appropriate age is where you can't leave them at home. I would say 12, who are buckled up in the back seat of a car, that you should be able to access curbside operations. I think you could technically make a legal argument that this is the premises, if that's where the transaction is happening. But if you're in a car and you are buckled up, it's not necessarily the spirit of what was envisioned when you said people under 21 can't be on the premises of a marijuana establishment. This also, if we made an exception, it wouldn't apply to someone who's 21 who's bringing their 20-year-old friend with them or anything like that. It would just be a very narrow exception. So I wanted to bring that up, and even if we don't make the change, I just want to explicitly acknowledge that parents who don't necessarily have childcare or a partner to leave their child with, or a live-in nanny, or whatever your situation is, I think you should have the right to access cannabis just like anyone else. So that is my hope, and that's why I wanted to bring it up for discussion, and I appreciate having that opportunity.
Sure. Thank you, Commissioner Title.
Mr. Chairman.
Let me ask for other comments, Commissioner Flanagan, and I've also just spoken with the Executive Director previously. If there are questions for him specifically on this topic, he'd welcome the opportunity to respond. Go ahead, Commissioner Flanagan.
Mr. Chairman, I appreciate the comments of Commissioner Title, and while I understand that parents may be having difficulty accessing this product given the circumstances that we're currently in, I just want to reiterate the fact that there is not, that first and foremost, I don't believe that anyone under 21 should be in the car. I'm sorry, this is not something that is absolute necessary. This is not food. We're not talking about things of that nature. We're talking about a choice that a parent is making. I understand people are home with their kids right now, and not everyone can just leave them and go out and run errands and do what they have to do. But I truly think it's about time that we really take a look at the public health and especially children. It's true, we have a lot of protections in place. Children are not allowed inside the store. And essentially what we did with curbside pickup was move the store to the parking lot. So in essence, that is part of the establishment, in my opinion, which means that children should not be in that car. I don't care if they're 4, 12, 20, they shouldn't be in that car. I think the other thing too to remember is that there's not equity and access in this state at all. People have transportation limitations. People don't have access to stores. They may not be in a geographically close area to where they live. And if we're going to try to accommodate certain populations of people, there's always going to be somebody left out. Not to mention the fact that if we're about to go into phase 2 and people can go into retail, then that's going to start next week, and curbside's not going to necessarily be there. So this weekend, when the governor lays out the plan for phase 2 and who can open, this might be a moot point. You might be able to have people going into those stores, and those same people who want the kids in the car, I can't imagine they're not going to go into the store. They're going to have to find a way. And while I think that we have tried to be accommodating for most people, I think that when push comes to shove, The reality is that it's something that people just can't do. And it's hard to say no to populations of people. I know single parents are probably saying to me, well, you're not, you're putting me in a different place. I can't get childcare. I'm sorry about that. I'm also sorry about the fact that people have limitations on transportation and can't just jump on the T and go to the closest dispensary, and that their bus service might not allow them to go anywhere near a dispensary, or that someone doesn't have a car that's running, or someone has lost their job and can't afford it. And there's a whole host of things that come into play when it comes to access. And I really think, and we'll push back on anybody that says we should allow people under 21 in the car while they're going to participate in curbside pickup. I appreciate the different points of view. I just think that, we work on equity a lot. We work on equality a lot, but at the same time, public health is a really important issue. And I really think that kids don't belong anywhere near it.
Thank you, Commissioner Flanagan. Without putting you on the spot, Commissioner McBride, do you have some comments you'd like to make?
Sure. So in my mind, the reason that we haven't touched the age piece of this since we put our regs into place is because it states really explicitly in the statute what our obligation is. It states in section 4A.5, 21 of chapter 94 that regulations shall include requirements and procedures, including a prohibition on persons under 21, right, entering marijuana establishments. I am going to make the legal argument that we also define what premises is, and that includes the outdoor area of the establishment. It's not just the building, it's the outdoor area as well. So, I mean, the guidance that in weighing this, right, and thinking about it, for me, this comes purely from the statute and what the statute requires us to do. And there are no fewer than 12 references in the statute to preventing individuals under the age of 21 from doing certain things around, that we regulate. So for me, that's the beginning and the end of, what we should be doing. That's not to say that I'm not, I am so sympathetic to, particularly in this circumstance, to individuals who don't have good support systems, right, or don't have a support system that other people can lean on. And I understand the frustration there, but I have to look at it from the perspective of what my obligation is as a regulator, and I take my guidance and what my obligation is right from the language that's on the page, in front of me in the statute. And so I think that when we delegated the authority to the executive director to take certain administrative actions, it was all with the understanding that that was going to be in compliance with statute and regulations. And I think that in this instance, he used his authority and exercised it appropriately, and took, his guidance from those same sources that quite frankly, the rest of the curbside, operations order came from, and, sort of took what we have in our regs and what's in the statute, and tried to, fit it as best he could in this, new framework. But the roots of it are most definitely in the statute and in the regulations.
Thank you, Commissioner McBride. I couldn't agree more with what you first said, Commissioner Tuttle, that, this is a difficult situation with no good answers. But I don't want to pile on other than to say I am very much of the same opinion as Commissioners Flanagan and McBride on this, that this is a requirement of our statute and our regulations. And even though I know it does create some inconvenience, and I feel very badly for that, I don't believe that we should change this because I do think it is required by statute and regulations. So I don't mean, again, to pile on, but that's certainly my opinion. So Commissioner Tuttle, First of all, you're more than welcome to make any additional comments you'd like, if you would. Second, I don't know if you want to introduce a motion or not. I'll leave both of those at your discretion. So how would you like to proceed?
I would like to make an additional comment, but not a motion.
Okay, please go ahead.
And while I appreciate your restraint in not wanting to pile on, I think you have every right to state your opinion, and I'm glad that you did. I think it's just really important to have these discussions because in all of these unprecedented circumstances, I think it's up to us to use our judgment in how we interpret laws and regulations that we ourselves wrote that were written without any anticipation of these particular circumstances. So I think it's part of our job to use that judgment. And being able to just have this conversation in this setting with the understanding that a parent might be trying to purchase marijuana and they have every right to do so and they're a law-abiding citizen and nobody challenging that, to me, is progress. So I appreciate just having the conversation, and I appreciate that hopefully this is a very temporary situation with delivery coming especially. So again, I'm thankful for the opportunity to bring this up and for everyone's comments.
Thanks, Commissioner Tyler. By the way, I agree that it is important, appropriate, and very valuable to have these kinds of conversations. So I appreciate your making the case to put this on the agenda. Yeah, I think it's appropriate and it's valuable. So thank you for that. Any other comments on this before we move on to the next agenda item? Okay, well, thank you again to the entire commission for what I thought was a useful and productive and important conversation on that. The last agenda item we have before we go into executive session is an update on the effectiveness of the More About Marijuana campaign. I really appreciate the efforts of the people you can see named on this slide. This is obviously a very important initiative of the commission. My gratitude to Commissioner Flanagan for the leadership role that she's played here, along with the others involved in this campaign. And I think it's actually quite valuable that we get an update about how the campaign is working. So I'm not sure who's leading this part of the conversation. Is that going to be you, Dr. Johnson?
No, Samantha's going to be starting us off today.
Okay, and I know that you've gotten beaten up a little bit by our executive director. It's obviously been a very long meeting, so I asked you to go through this at a reasonable pace. Don't skip anything that's important, but if you could just have a little sympathy for the commission in terms of how fried our brains are right now, I'd really appreciate it. But this is an important topic again, so please don't rush. Don't skip anything that's important.
We are under 10 minutes for you, Chairman.
Well, you'll have my eternal gratitude if that's the case. Go ahead, Dr. Johnson.
Hi.
Samantha, excuse me. Go ahead, Samantha.
Thank you. So thank you, Director Collins, Chairman Hoffman, and Commissioners Flanagan, McBride, and Title. Today, we're really excited to present the report assessing the effectiveness of the More About Marijuana campaign. Next slide, please. So the More About Marijuana public awareness campaign was statutorily required to cover certain topics. And so our presentation today covers the first wave of the campaign, which spanned July 2018 through June 2019. And this wave included a sub-campaign on the responsible use of cannabis and a parent education sub-campaign. Next slide, please. The objectives of this campaign were first to inform adults 21 years old and older about the law to promote safe and responsible use, and second, to educate parents about the risks of youth use and support open communication about cannabis with their children. Next slide, please. The More About Marijuana campaign was developed through collaboration and through evidence-based research. Collaborators included the Massachusetts Department of Public Health and More Advertising, the campaign vendor. Our research methods included literature reviews from other states with legal cannabis, statewide focus groups, and statewide surveys. The statewide surveys were conducted before and after the More About Marijuana campaign ran and sampled about 2,500 people in each survey. And these respondents were selected to be a representative sample of Massachusetts adults. Next slide, please. As a result of this formative research, 10 key messages listed on this slide were identified as the priority education items for Wave 1 of the campaign. Next slide, please.
I think Erica wants us to read this before we go.
Thanks, Erica. So as you've probably seen on social media, this slide shows a few of the creatives that were developed for this campaign. Next slide. So to assess the effectiveness of the More About Marijuana campaign, we measured items in 3 areas. Reach metrics evaluated to what extent the target audience was exposed to the campaign. Recognition metrics measured whether the target audience remembered seeing campaign creatives and messages. And lastly, knowledge metrics evaluated whether the target audience had new knowledge following the campaign. And this presentation will focus on the recognition and knowledge metrics, but for a comprehensive discussion around all of the metrics and their limitations, please see the full report. In the post-campaign statewide survey, participants were asked if they had seen any advertising about cannabis in Massachusetts in the past 6 months. This question likely captures both More About Marijuana campaign exposure and any other external cannabis advertisements. And we found that 69% of respondents reported seeing any cannabis advertising. Participants were most likely to report seeing advertisements on the internet or on TV, followed by social media, highway billboards, or on public transit. Next slide, please. And at this point, I will turn it over to Julie. Thanks.
I think you might be muted, Dr. Johnson. Dr. Johnson, I think you are muted, Dr. Johnson.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. So thanks, Samantha and the chair. Thank you. Since the last question may capture ads external to the More About Marijuana campaign, we also examined what % of respondents specifically reported seeing any of the campaign materials, as you see listed on the right. 51% of survey respondents recalled seeing one or more specific campaign message. The most commonly recalled message was "Marijuana is legal, know the laws" at 49%. Next slide, please, Erica. Logistic regression models were run to examine changes from pre to post campaign surveys to post campaign respondents reporting seeing either any general public awareness campaign materials or any youth campaign materials. Year of survey was also assessed as an indicator from pre to post campaign, additionally capturing respondents in the post campaign survey year who may not have reported seeing any campaign materials. We found that post campaign survey respondents had significantly greater odds of reporting that individuals aged 21 years or older were old enough to try cannabis. Respondents who reported seeing either campaign had significantly greater associated odds of reporting that people who are old enough to use cannabis at 21 compared to age 18. Next slide, please. Similarly, logistic regression models were run to assess responses to the question, how does driving after cannabis use compare to driving after alcohol, pre to post campaign? Post campaign respondents had significantly greater odds of reporting that cannabis is more dangerous or just as dangerous as driving after alcohol use than pre-campaign respondents. Thanks to Commissioner Title for pointing this out yesterday. I wanted to clarify that there is no campaign messaging that compares cannabis impaired driving to alcohol impaired driving. This survey question was used to discern perceived risk of harm. So results here show that the change in perceived risk did not differ between those who had actually seen the campaign to those who had not. As you can see, the only statistically significant model is that examining year, not whether a respondent had seen either campaign specifically, suggesting that time factors or another factor that occurred between 2018 and 2019 changed how residents understood driving after cannabis use compared to driving after alcohol use. Next slide, please. Respondents who reported seeing the youth campaign materials had significantly greater associated odds of reporting that if they kept cannabis in their home, they would keep it in a locked storage area. Those who saw any campaign materials had slightly greater odds of reporting that they would keep cannabis in a medicine cabinet. However, no other areas of storage showed significant changes from pre to post campaign. Next slide, please. Importantly, post-campaign survey respondents had significantly greater odds of reporting that cannabis risks are greater for youth, and this was significant for all 3 respondent groups assessed. There were no significant differences regarding whether secondhand cannabis smoke is more dangerous for youth or for parents feeling like they had the information they need to talk to their children. Next slide, please. To sum up very quickly, the public awareness campaign reached an estimated 51% of the Commonwealth. This report shows empirical evidence of its effectiveness in key domains such as age of legal use and safe lock storage. Next slide, please. Based on this assessment of campaign goals and effectiveness, the Commission's research team sees evidence-based value in continuing public education campaigns to promote responsible adult and medicinal cannabis use. First, the Commonwealth could continue the progress of the public awareness campaign with parents of youth and adult consumers, but also focus on pregnant and breastfeeding women, youth, which we've actually already started with our Direct to Youth campaign, and lastly, home growers and manufacturers, another cohort. We've also launched targeted ads educating regarding manufacturing safety. Second, campaign results assessing marijuana use behaviors could be used to inform future campaign messaging, such as harm reduction. And lastly, any future campaign should incorporate targeted knowledge assessment questions into any state pre and post survey to enable more comprehensive knowledge assessments. Next slide, please. So similar to prior reports, this study is external to our statutory mandated research agenda, but nonetheless really important. To those who may not know in the audience, one of the Commission's operating principles is to enhance and ensure public health and safety by developing and executing a program of continuing public education. This research shows that the Commission is not only committed to this principle, but is doing so effectively. So thank you for your time today, and special thank you to Director Collins, Commissioners, and specifically Commissioner Flanagan and Cedric for your dedication to this important project and ensuring its success.
Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson.
Take research questions, but I also want you to know that.
I want to just thank you, Dr. Johnson and Ms. Noonan. I appreciate both how important this is, but I appreciate the way you went through it. I just want to give an opportunity to the other commissioners to ask any questions or make any comments if they have.
Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Flanagan, please go.
Mr. Chairman, I just want to really thank Dr. Johnson and Samantha, but also Mary Alice Curley and Cedric Sinclair for the work that they've done. There's a lot of research and information here, and I think it's great to see that the campaign's working. People are taking notice of it. I know that especially now that people are home, we're seeing that the visits to the website are up, and it's really good to see. But at the same time, this is just such a crucial part of informing people, and I'm really proud of the fact that the Cannabis Control Commission's campaign really has a neutral tone to it. There's just a way that people will be welcomed into learning more about this product and what's safe and how to store it, with really no tone as to say whether it's good or bad. And I think that's something that we have to keep going forward. But I really think that the information that was presented here today proves that the money that's been invested into this campaign has certainly been worthwhile. It's been helpful, and that we've done the right thing to make this a key part of our agency in the forefront, and doing so right in the beginning before it got to be too late.
Thank you, Commissioner Flanagan.
Thanks, Commissioner Flanagan. Oh, sorry, Chair.
Go ahead, Dr. Johnson.
I also just wanted to know that we just went over the research part of it to kind of keep it expedited and fast, but I also want to know that Cedric, our communications guru and actually the campaign lead, is also on the line for questions as well.
Okay, thanks. Commissioners Title or McBride, any comments or questions?
Yes.
Go ahead, Commissioner Title.
I love this report. It is so good. I think it's our most layperson friendly report to read through. It really paints a picture, and it's so informative, and it has a lot of practical value for all the other states that are going to be presenting this question. I really admire all of you, Commissioner Flanagan, Dr. Johnson, Cedric, Mary Alice, Samantha. I really admire the way that you went about this so systematically, and this is covered in the report, where you decided what messages to cover based on what people needed to know and what would be non-judgmental to begin with, and then moving on to more complicated messaging. And I think you took a lot of lessons from other states in seeing that non-judgmental tones are more effective. And then you so systematically recorded how effective these messages were. So you've really gone about this the right way. I agree with Commissioner Flanagan. It seems like the resources that were put into this were very well spent. I have one question. I just wanted to ask Cedric Sinclair, if he's available on the line, if he could talk about the next phase in terms of information about home manufacturing and the direct to youth campaign.
I'm not sure Cedric is on. Are you on, Cedric? Erica, do you know if Cedric is on?
Can you hear me?
Oh, go ahead. Can't see you, but we can hear you. Go ahead, Cedric.
Sorry, my computer keeps muting itself. So the campaign is currently live throughout Massachusetts, and it contains the youth prevention and the responsible use components that the research team discussed today. But to Commissioner Title's point, we have also in this new phase launched the dangers of home manufacturing. And we really want to keep the same tone we've established throughout this campaign, really that neutral voice that doesn't provide judgment. And we're highlighting really serious concerns while still appreciating that the constituents have this legal right to manufacture and cultivate at home. And we're really trying to bring emphasis to the concerns around use of explosive substances, ensuring that they stay within fire code safety, and some of the challenges around distribution of oils and edibles. But then we also took an opportunity to make sure that the campaign remained timely and relevant. And so we also have built out warnings of the dangers of contaminants that may be present in unlicensed vapes. And we're also currently building out content around how responsible consumption practices as well as operational practices for our licensees and our consumers amid COVID-19. So we're doing as much as we can to really keep the content timely and relevant to what's happening around us. One of the challenges, unfortunately, is that we have run into some censorship. And so Google on YouTube and on Google AdWords has censored many of the home manufacturing ads. And so I encourage the public to go to our moreaboutmj.org, take a look at the content that's available there on our YouTube channels, because there's some really helpful content for the public.
Thank you. Commissioner Tyler, anything else before I ask Commissioner McBride for comments?
No.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner McBride, do you have comments or questions?
I don't have any questions. I mean, I think everyone's already said what my thoughts are, but you know, this campaign has been really thoughtful, but it's also been really accessible. And I think that is great. It's something that, you know, whenever I'm out presenting and I get to this point, you know, people perk up, and it's you know, there's an aspect of it that they can get, you know, they can physically get the handouts, like they've seen it. It's an accessible campaign, and I think that I'm really, you know, you should be proud of the campaign as it came together. I know a lot of work went into this, and I think that it is, like, out of the gates, you are, you know, running at full speed, so it's great.
Thanks, Commissioner McBride. And I'll just reemphasize my thanks to the team, but specifically Commissioner Flanagan for the leadership on this. So just want to acknowledge and thank her for that. And Dr. Johnson, Samantha, Cedric, and Mary Alice, thank you so much for your work on this. And I'm very proud of us. I agree with what Commissioner McBride just said. I'm very proud of the commission and how we've done this. So thank you.
Thank you.
So yeah, before we move into executive session or ask for a vote, there are two upcoming meetings, or two certain and one uncertain meetings. I just wanted to get the public aware of. June 19th is going to be a full public meeting devoted solely to policy conversations with respect to the regulations review process that we're going through right now. We have a number of topics that have been brought up by the writing teams that include both individual commissioners as well as key members of staff. And before we get to the point where we want to start drafting and voting on draft regulations, there are some policy discussions that we need to have. That will be the objective of the June 19th meeting. There is a fair number of issues. There are a fair number of issues. My hope is we can get through them all on the 19th, but in case we cannot, we have a tentative spillover date of June 25th for continued conversation around policy issues. My hope, again, is we don't need it, but it's there if we do. And then our next regularly scheduled public meeting is July 9th. I see that Erica has updated the slide from saying location TBD to saying via Microsoft Teams Live. I think it's pretty certain that in this time frame, all 2 or 3 of these meetings will be done via Microsoft Teams Live. That being said, there is one other topic that I became aware of after I published the agenda, and I do believe it should be done in executive session. Commissioner McBride, would you like to make the motion, or would you like me to? It's totally your call.
Mr. Chair, please go ahead and make the motion. I don't have the language right in front of me.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had it in front of you. So let me make the following motion, which is I move under open meeting law GLC 30A. See, the reason I wanted you to make the motion is that you know what all these symbols mean. But under open meeting law GLC 30A, Chapter 21A, Section 4 and Section 7, and the Public Records Law GLC 66. And the exemptions set forth in GL-C4, Chapter 7, 26, subsections D, F, and N. I move that the Commission enter into executive session to discuss investigations into licensed entities which have recently been vandalized, including security issues. Could I have a second on that motion, please?
Second.
Let the record show that Chairman Hoffman made the motion, seconded by Commissioner McBride. Before I ask for a vote, I just want to make a couple of additional comments so people have it in context for the vote. First of all, as I mentioned earlier, we will not return into open session, but we'll adjourn from executive session. There is a new invitation for people participating in executive session, so it's not the same invitation that that you used to get into this meeting, but there's a separate invitation that's in your inbox that you need to accept and go to that link. Given that this meeting is being conducted virtually, I will take a roll call vote, but I will also ask each commissioner, I apologize for this, but I think it's necessary. I will ask each commissioner to state on the record that no other person is present or able to hear his or her conversations with the commission. So when I ask for your vote, if you could make that statement. And then finally, just for your context, the vote to go in an executive session will, the executive session will include the following staff members: the executive director, the general counsel, chief of investigations and enforcement, the chief of staff, and the associate general counsel. So when you're voting to go in executive session, please do so with the knowledge that those staff members will be involved in the executive session. That being said, Commissioner Flanagan, would you vote on the motion, please?
Yay, and yes to the terminology that you used.
That's fine. Thank you. Commissioner McBride?
Aye, and yeah, I'm alone.
Okay, Commissioner Title?
Aye, and no one can hear my conversation.
Commissioner Hoffman, aye, and nobody can hear my conversation. Okay, let the record show the commission has to approve going into executive session. So we are in executive session as of this moment, and we will adjourn from executive session.